Well, Peter, right now about 8 homes are in danger, and we're actually right where the fire started, about a kilometer off St. Mary's Road. Now, right behind me is where this fire started. The hot spot got picked up by the wind, and the flames just started spreading. They've spread at least a kilometer at this point. You can still hear the sirens in the background as fire crews continue to rush to every scene, rushing back to the city to fill up with water, and then back here to try and put out the flames.
So, Kaleigh, what kind of damage are we talking about here?
Well, Peter, come June, this is supposed to become someone's dream home, but that dream has been a bit tarnished, as you can see, after someone splattered spray paint on almost every outside wall. Now, crews from A&S Homes are working through the night tonight to get this place cleaned up after the $1.4 million prize home was tagged sometime last night. Graffiti. Well, Peter, after just the second day of the papal conclave and only 5 ballots, former Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio has been chosen as the 266th pontiff. Now, this mass going on behind me is just one of the first of the celebratory masses that will be going on around the city, and many are surprised at just how quickly this pope was picked. Now, the white smoke was the first signal, and then the announcement to tens of thousands, we have a pope. The new 76-year-old. This was a big win, and the only one the Bombers would celebrate in their new home. Now, with just one host game left, season ticket holders have discovered that next year they'll be paying more to watch the struggling team.
This is like worst case scenario, like for sure. For them to have tanked that bad in the new stadium, and then, yeah, they have to raise prices and everything and try to put a good spin on it, that's tough. I'd hate to have to market that team.
Tickets in the most affordable sections are seeing the biggest jump, with a 25% increase that adds up to just over $5 a game, $52 for the season. Every other seat will cost about $2 more.
Our season ticket holders are no stranger to increases year after year.
Bomber Vice President and CEO Jim Bell tells Global News raising the prices in P7 brings the section up to fair market value and may be a vital necessity for a team that owes the province tens of millions of dollars for the new stadium and had to borrow millions more to fix mistakes made during construction.
When you compare it to other markets in other cities and trying to get a gauge for what other people do, and again, or for what other teams do, and with 4,400 seats in the building, it's still a very, very affordable price point.
While the Bombers are calling this good business, many fans fear after this season's dismal record, raising ticket prices even just a few dollars could leave next season's stadium looking a lot like this.
Since their results are so bad right now, I don't think this is the time to be increasing your ticket sales.
Especially when many season ticket holders this year stopped showing up to sit in seats they'd already paid for. The Bombers are accepting their defeat both on and off the field.
We certainly understand the fans' frustration in the sense that the on-field record has not been good in 2013.
But say they're still staying optimistic that fans will come back again next year, as they always have. It was a spring bonfire that went horribly wrong.
They were adding gasoline to the fire to get it to go away.
Fire and paramedic crews rushed to this home on Guay Avenue just before 7 o'clock tonight. One man was taken to hospital in critical condition with 2nd and 3rd degree burns to his upper body.
In this case, it blew on him, spreading to the swing set and to the garage and the gentleman's clothing.
His daughter is also in hospital being treated for severe burns on her hands after trying to put out the flames to save him. The family is still very shaken up.
They were in shock and everybody's quite upset. So, yeah, it's upsetting when somebody gets burned. So it's very painful.
You can still smell the gas in the air here. The man was dousing the flames with fuel when there was a flashback. Neighbors say they heard a large boom, and that's when his daughter rushed out to help.
People know, but everybody takes chances and tries to push the envelope, I guess, and then every once in a while they get, so to speak, bit.
2 other people were also treated for burns on their hands after jumping in to help. Fire officials say the cause of this fire and the injuries is human error. Kaleigh Hamilton, Global News. I went digging and I haven't had a history lesson in quite a long time, and wow, I learned a lot about the era of the Voyageur and just how much Winnipeg is actually tied to the Voyageur, to this era, and the battle between two fur trading companies, actually a battle called the Battle of Seven Oaks, that really helped shape our city as we know it today. The Forks, this street, and an East Kildonan High School. Their significance in history dates back 200 years to a battle for the right to do business.
The Nor'westers, it's our guys, and of course the Hudson's Bay Company, which a lot of people may have heard of. So those two companies were battling throughout the early 19th century for control of the fur trade.
It's an era in our region's history that's actually celebrated each year in February with a big
11 meters in length, a birch freight canoe weighed 275 kilograms.
Imagine doing a portage that's, 2 or 3 miles long, carrying two 90-pound bales on your back. But then you got to go do it again because you're actually responsible for 6 bales in a canoe. So you got to sing, you got to dance, you got to celebrate when you can.
Festival du Voyageur, or the Festival of the Traveler, honors the men who paddled and portaged to bring goods from around the world here to be traded for fur.
I was hired to be a voyageur, and I paddled about 14 to 16 hours a day. And that when I was hired, actually they hired me, and I had to sign up in my contract where I paddled between about 45 to 55 strokes per minute. Depending on where I sit in the canoe, I get paid different amounts of money.
Many voyageurs also settled here, deciding to build a life where they landed. Instead of going back to Quebec, they married local Aboriginal women and created a new culture.
They were talking about important Métis in the history of Manitoba, and there was a name that rang a bell for me, and I didn't know why, and I went back and checked in our genealogy, and I'm actually a direct descendant of one of the important Métis.
In 1969, Festival kicked off its first 3-day event to celebrate the lifestyle in the middle of a Manitoba winter.
It was members of the French Chamber of Commerce that got together and said, it's dreary in the wintertime, it's cold, it's dark out. We should be having some fun. We need to stimulate our economy. We have to get the people out here and supporting French entrepreneurs.
But in the early years, Festival wasn't well received and almost sunk.
It had very, as I say, humble beginnings, and there was years where the staff, the board didn't know if they were going to be able to pay the staff, and they kept going back to the city and other funders and trying to get sponsors together.
Organizers forged on, creating and adding new sites and events to sculpt the experience into the spectacle at Whittier Park we know today.
We've become known as a bit of a music festival in addition to all that culture and heritage that we share here at Fort Gibraltar and throughout the site.
Now in its 44th year, Festival du Voyageur welcomes tens of thousands to share in the history of the Red River Valley. It's evolved into the world's largest kitchen party, and it takes a lot of people and a lot of time to plan a party that lasts 10 days and nights.
It calls on about 13 full-time staff members that work year-round. We get to about 200 employees when Festival hits, and we have over 1,100 volunteers helping us when the 10 days are actually on.
It's not just the people, but what they bring. Whether your role is volunteer or visitor, bringing your joie de vivre in -4 or -40 is mandatory. And with the Voyageur, we're all about.